Well, hello everyone. Welcome back once again to the VoV network where great things are always happening. It's Saturday morning once again, and we are here live. I'm Brian Murray. I'm the co-founder of the VoV network. I'm joined this morning by Mina. Say hello to everyone, Mina.
Aloha.
Aloha. That's right. Well, welcome back once again to the VOV network. Today, we're going to be doing a live stream, as you can obviously tell. And we have a topic I think is going to engender a lot of different discussion by a lot of different people because we really are going to focus in a relationship or in healthy relationships. Are your expectations of your partner, your significant other, unrealistic? And we're going to take a look at what that means and take a deep dive into just some of the different things that maybe could be unrealistic. Maybe they are more realistic, but we really hope that you guys can share some of your opinions and your feedback because that's going to be the most critical piece. Mina, what do you want to add on that before we get started here?
I think I would add that some of us might have to go back to previous relationships to think about our expectations. So let's do that also.
All right. Well, without further ado, let's just get into it. Well, welcome back, everyone. All right. So, as Mina was saying, we're talking about expectations in relationships. And, a lot of times we first get into you're meeting someone, you're trying to lay a foundation for a new relationship. You kind of have to stop and ask yourself, am I being reasonable or unreasonable in the things that I expect, right? In the relationship. And what does that look like in those particular situations? So that's what we're going to talk about today. I have a list of a few things. I mean, I know you kind of looked at this a little bit, but I want to just start out by talking about from a relationship standpoint. I think one of the things that a lot of us we all grew up watching Disney movies and these kinds of things, So you've got the princess or Cinderella, Prince Charming, all these different things. So you get these romantic type images of how people should be and how they should act in relationships. And oddly enough, sometimes those things actually do drive um, how we look at ourselves and think about relationships or set the expectations for relationships. So that's one of the things that I wanted to definitely bring in is to talk about that a little bit. So from a expectation standpoint for you, what would you say are some of the things that you see as a priority?
Uh, well, my biggest expectation is that uh, my significant other would be kind. Kindness is great for me. I'm very much attracted to that, to be kind. But I do have that you talk about the fairy tales and, I'm a dreamer, definitely a dreamer, always
Mhm,
have been,
mhm,
and so in my thoughts, I think I'm one that part of that generation that grew up with those fairy tales and the thought of, how it should be,
mm.
how I think it should be,
Right. Based on fairy tale, right? Yeah, yeah.
what they call magical thinking. You expect it to be that way because maybe that's what you saw on TV or you read about in books growing up, and but just because you think or see that, it doesn't make it happen. It's not how it necessarily will be, and just because, like I say, I want someone that's kind, and just because they're kind, they may not be that Prince Charming, it might be something else, and
Right,
it doesn't mean it's
right,
not good, but
right.
it's just not that. So if you're
Yeah.
expecting that, you may not get it. So
Mhm, mhm,
yeah,
mhm.
and then if you
Yeah.
do, it's kind of when you do get it, it's like, "What? What is this?" Like, "Is this real?"
Is this real? Right? Because then you
Right,
start
right,
to you
right,
start to
right,
doubt it, right? So it's that
right.
whole thing about you kissing the frogs
Yeah,
to find your
yeah.
Prince Charming kinda thing, right?
Yes,
And but then
absolutely.
when all of a sudden one of those frogs does magically appear to be your
Yeah,
Prince Charming, it's like, "Oh god, what do I do now?" Because
it's too
I didn't
much.
ex right.
Too much too
So,
fast.
too much, right? So but you're wishing and you're hoping for it, and then when it happens, you
It's
don't even know what to do
unreal.
with it, right? So that's
Right,
one of the
right, right.
challenges. Uh, so that just kind of comes back to from the standpoint of relationships, and
Mhm.
one of the expectations I think a lot of people have is that it just should come naturally, right? It
Right.
should just happen, spontaneously combust, and you meet somebody, and
Right.
it just boom, right? But
Right.
that's not the case, and I mean I know one of the things that that you're involved in is some of your makeup work and some of the things you do from
Oh,
that
yeah, yeah.
standpoint. So one
Yes.
of the analogies that they gave is probably the first time that you put makeup on your face, you didn't do a very good job. You didn't just come
Wait, wait,
natural
wait,
to waking
wait,
up.
wait. I still make mistakes. When I first started, I'd been wearing makeup all my adult life, and this is something I talk about all the time. I went on to do my eyebrows. Eyebrows, when you freehand eyebrows, they never are the same. We
Right.
call them
Right.
siblings, not twins, because they're never
Right.
the same.
Right.
I jacked those eyebrows up online in a live video so bad, even my brother was like, "What are you doing?" Like, well, I think
Yeah.
it was no, I think that wasn't the one my brother was on. That was my friend was on there saying
Right.
something about that one, but
Right.
but yeah, it was bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. We have this expectation that the relationship is just gonna, like I said, spontaneously combust. It's gonna be natural. I don't
Mhm.
have to do anything special or work at it or
Yeah.
practice and those kinds of, and that's not true. So I
No.
think that's one of the expectations that we need to be cautious of is just expecting all of it to just happen naturally,
Mm.
from that
Yes.
standpoint. Um, the other piece of it too, I mean, you uh, going back to the fairy tales and then how some of us are raised and certain things to stick with you. So we've all heard this when we're looking for a significant other, you're looking for somebody that's like your mom or like your dad, right? From a character and traits and those characteristics kind of standpoint. Uh,
Right.
and maybe that's not the right expectation to have either, because that might not actually be the best fit for you and your personality.
Right.
Because the parent child relationship is a different relationship
Mhm.
than a romantic interest, right?
Mhm.
So, if you're in a romantic interest situation, having that and what you're looking for is someone, oh, I want somebody who's just like my dad. Well, that might not be the right thing to look for. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that you could have expectations that you admire in your family members. For me, it was a brother that, well, both well, all three actually, they're such hard workers, and the way they view work, and they're just so tenacious. And I mean, I want someone that works hard, but they're such go getters. You know,
Hmm.
I just I love to see that in a man that's just a go-getter when it
Go
comes
get
to
her.
work. Yeah,
Right.
not necessarily money, but work, right?
Right.
And definitely is a quality that I like, but I mean,
I
you're
mean,
gonna get that.
the flip side of that coin is, if they are that dedicated to work, do they have time for the relationship? Right?
Exactly. Mhm.
You know,
Depends.
so it depends, right? So there's a balance to that for what it is that you do look
Mhm.
for. Uh,
Yeah.
what are some of the things? What do you want to bring up off of your list, maybe right now of things?
I brought up the magical thinking, and that was really important for me. Is that people sometimes have expectations, and they think because they've got this idea or whatever they're thinking in their head of what they want or expect out of a person, that it's going to magically happen. That's they're going to do it, or they're going to read minds, or you're going to get that, and it's not really giving that person a fair chance, right? But
Hmm.
you expect them to be that way just automatically, and then you're unhappy and you're disappointed because you didn't get that magic that you thought you were going to have, because you think it's just going to happen by osmosis somehow,
By most, right?
because
It's just,
I thought it. I want to
therefore, it should
romantic.
happen, right?
It's going to happen.
Right.
He's going to do it. So
Right.
that was one of the main things that I wanted to bring up, and you have that disappointment and resentment for them not being what you had in your head that they didn't even know.
Right. Right. Mind reading, right? I mean,
Mhm.
because that was one of the things that I thought of too. you know, I mean, most of us don't have that skill as a natural individual of being a mind reader. I'm not a mind reader, and I don't have a crystal ball. Any of
Right,
those kind of things that's going to help. So you do have to communicate what it is you're thinking and what you expect. You can't really just think that the person's just going to figure it out, right?
right.
Um,
Mhm. We talked
on
about that last week too, right?
we did. We've
Or
talked
was
about
that
that. So,
this week? The recorded.
yes, we
Yeah,
did. We
yeah, it was
talked
this
about
week.
that. Well, what I then want to layer on top of that, in addition to the mind reading piece, is if it's a feeling that you have, if you're feeling a certain way or you're feeling a certain thing, and then you expect that other person to just somehow figure out what that feeling is and what the root of it is and all that, um, it's not going to happen, right? We
Mhm,
intuitively just generally can't read minds and that
mm,
kind of thing. So that's where we said, from an expectation standpoint, you need to actually share
right.
what you're feeling and what you're thinking. Because if you're waiting for the other person, and
Mhm.
and you use the term, that resentment and those
Yes,
kinds of things, yeah, it's going to be
very
a natural place you're going to put yourself into because you're not being open and sharing what it is that you're really thinking and feeling at that time,
mhm.
right?
Like, maybe in a situation expecting them to know what they did, why you're upset, what you were expecting them to do that they didn't do.
Yeah,
What
yeah,
was it? You meet silence sometimes, you meet silence, and you get that
that's true.
silence, and you don't even know what you did or
That's
what
very true.
what it is. Maybe you didn't do anything.
Yep, yep, absolutely, it's very true.
That expectation.
So the other piece of it too, when you talk about expectations, is you know the majority of it is in our own head, right?
Yeah.
So we are looking at that from that standpoint. We have a comment too. I'll share that with everybody.
Mhm.
Thank you, Trish. So yeah, it's very true. Expectations must be first known and agreed upon. That's true, right? You have to have that communication. That two-way communication is a very important thing. Um, And I mean, I'm pretty good sometimes at, reading minds. No, I'm not. I'm never good at reading minds. But that's the whole point is, you have to be able to share what it is you're thinking, what it is you're feeling in those particular times, right?
Right, right.
What else do you have on your list you want to share at this point?
Oh, my rest of my list is for the end.
For the end, okay. Well, I
I
have a
think so.
couple I want to get into here. One is about spending time together from an expectation standpoint, because people have that's a mixed bag. Certain people feel like, okay, you're my significant other, you're my person, so every free possible moment that you have, my expectation is that you spend that time with me. You think that's reasonable?
No, I don't think that's reasonable, but at the same time, I think that that's like a field of landmines there,
Hmm.
because if you're that person and you know you're that person because I can be that way, right? Right. So I know I'm that person. So for me, I like to say, okay, what is reasonable for us? Like, I don't wanna be around too much or you at my house too much. You need your space. What is that? And if a person isn't, verbal enough about that or doesn't communicate enough about that, you can end up being around or
Too much,
together too much. Right,
too
right, right,
much,
right.
right?
Right.
So
Everybody has to communicate. Both parties have to communicate.
both parties need to communicate. And
Mhm.
so then let me ask this question. This is kind of for Mina, but also our audience out there. If you have a comment you want to chime in those situations where it's like, time together and I want you all your spare time with me, do you think that there's a trust factor associated with that?
Could be
So they're
some,
not,
but not always.
not always.
No, it
Yeah.
doesn't always be that. It's not always that.
Yeah.
It could be though. Could be. Could be.
I mean, it could
Depends on
be.
what you're dealing with.
Great. Great. But I know
But, I
that's,
mean, if you have to do that, then if you feel like you have to do that, that's why
so
you're there.
is that good or bad?
It's bad. If you feel like you have to do that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we all have our vices, I guess, is in different ways that we get into situations where maybe because of past history in relationships, we have a tough
Mhm.
time trusting in new relationships, whatever the history might be. So those things can play into, that
Right.
time component of it. But
Mhm.
definitely one of the things you want to be cautious about when you talk about time. And as Mina said, I think that's a great way. Have the discussion about, what is reasonable from a spending time. Is it okay that, I go play golf with my buddies every
Mhm.
Saturday? And is that a challenge for you? Kind of thing. How would you feel about that? But you have to have the discussion. You can't just do it
Right.
and then expect the other person to.
"Oh, I know, I'm a man, I do what I wanna do. You're not my mom, what?"
Well, that's a problem
Right?
in the relationship right there, right? Yeah, and you're right. Some people are gonna have that thought. So, um, absolutely. She shared another thought here. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's a good one.
you know, absolutely. Uh, love language, and I mean, that's an episode we should do. We've kind of stayed away from the whole love languages thing,
Yeah,
but
we did.
you know,
Mhm.
but that might be a good topic to get into, so people have a better understanding and
Mhm.
feel for what your different love languages can be about.
Yeah,
Uh, date nights
yeah.
is another big one, as
Mhm.
Trish mentions here. So those types of things matter, and but again, it's all about communication, right?
Right,
Having those discussions is
right,
what's really going to matter as far as
right,
that
right.
goes.
Communication is always the key. We try not to harp on it too much, but it is.
Yep.
It is the communication. So,
And that's a good segue. Her comment there about date night and those kinds of things, because the next one
mhm.
I wanted to get from an expectation standpoint is where's the romance, right? Because
Yeah.
when a relationship is new, you know, you as we talked about before, you might bring flowers and you might do these different things which are sweet and romantic. You get 2 or 3 years in, and it's what was I think the one episode I did, and we're talking about opening the car door, and right,
Yeah.
and the guy was like, "Shit, open your own damn car
Stop.
door."
You're done with that, right? Don't start something you can't keep doing,
Exactly.
right?
So from a romance standpoint, I think it's important that you be conscious of that. And like I said, there
Yeah,
she mentioned date night and talking it through,
yeah.
and making sure that continues to happen. Um,
Mhm.
a balance of the time which we were just talking about, spending time apart, but also making sure that you
Right.
dedicate time together. Um, And then, I was talking to a friend just the other day, and this is a prime example. They had been together almost 30 years, and they eventually got divorced. Um, and just kind of getting over what was the driver behind, they said we got to a point in our relationship where we did nothing together. I did
Wow.
my thing and went to play golf and took trips and went out to Vegas with the boys and this kind of thing. And, she went shopping and went here and went there and did these different things. So we ended up just losing that connection, right?
Mhm.
Uh, and then it's like that you wake up one day looking at the person going, who are you? Because we don't relate anymore because we don't. So I think it's important that when you are having those discussions that you find time for individual things, but you also need to find that list of things that you really enjoy doing together.
Right.
And then make sure you find the time, plan the time to do those things together. I think that's going to be critically important that happens, right?
So cultivating that relationship,
Right.
good
Yeah.
better relationships, having that good relationship, thinking about your relationship,
Right.
not just, "Oh, I need my free time," but work on the relationship as much as you work on the free time, right?
Correct. Absolutely. So I'm gonna bring the overlay in here. Let's see if this will. Nope, it's not bringing in
Yes,
the chat.
it is a choice. She was talking about love and marriage is a choice. Yeah, it's a choice
It
you
is.
make.
It is a choice
So,
you make.
work on it. It
Right.
doesn't happen magically. Work on
Right.
that relationship.
Work on that relationship. Right.
And don't be afraid to communicate what you think or how you feel about the situation. So if you're talking about whether you need to have time or not to be off with your friends, be honest about it or just to have time alone. I know we were talking about yesterday, my friend and I were talking about introverts And, I was telling her about, my daughter and being an introvert. I was just telling her about a situation. But sometimes you just as an introvert, you need your time that no one is around. You're, like, on your own. You need that
Mhm,
having
mhm.
all that stimulus and all those people around all the time, you just need it. So, even if it's just sitting at home reading a book or watching a show or whatever, or just silence, it's it's good.
It's good, yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. Because you we one of our I think it was when,
Right.
Needed to Take a Step Back episode that
Right,
we
right, right,
did, and
right.
we were talking
Mhm.
about needing that time to individually
Mhm.
recharge, right? And kind of reposition yourself, and how in a relationship, making sure that both partners respect that time in the other partner, whatever that may be. It's a spa
Right,
day for one, it's a golf day for the other, but
right.
understanding what those things are that kind of light their fire, right? And gives them
Mhm.
a chance to kind of rejuvenate is very important in the relationship itself.
Right.
Uh, Another one I want to bring up too is, and it's interesting because romance is a big piece, and continuing to stoke that fire. You want to make sure that you do that, but
Yeah, here
also
you go.
understanding that over time, people will naturally change. So there's going to naturally be some mental change, some emotional change, and some physical change, right? So how do you deal with all of that too in the relationship? Because the person that you met 15, 20 years ago is not the same person at that point, if you know what I mean, because they've
Mm.
had some change happen, whether it's mentally, emotionally, or physically, right? Um, and understanding from an expectation standpoint that they're not going to be, and the flip side of the coin is you're not either.
Right.
So
Like what they say
you're
in
laying down all of this judgment against
right.
them, not taking into account
Right.
how you've probably changed also, right? Uh,
But realistically, there are people out there that are still pretty fit, that get older and stay fit,
mhm,
um, that still, look pretty good, right? If
yeah,
you're all about the physical thing, right?
right,
But the big thing is how you've grown together, your relationship. Have you connected? Have you, over that time? That I think that's gonna outweigh everything, how you
yeah.
feel and how you're connected. I don't think it's gonna matter, but I don't know. I don't have any experience, and I didn't read up on that before we did this, so
Well, when I say change, I mean physically. Obviously, we all change as the
mhm.
years go by. But things like, for example, this is a great example. When you were younger, maybe you guys really enjoyed the nightclub. But now that you're a few years older, one of you
Yeah.
has really gotten into the book club, which is a whole different friendship, right? 'Cause you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, I get
So, appreciating and understanding, that, "Hey, yeah, it used to be the nightclub for us, but now it's
that,
about
right.
the book club for me." And then how you as the other partner, how do you feel about that?
Oof.
Because you're like, "Book club? I don't have an interest." But when
But
you
there
first got
could
together, neither of you had an interest in the book club, but now this changed for one because those are the types of things that happen as life goes on, right?
right, but couldn't there be something out there that you both could enjoy together? That's
Absolutely.
not the book club?
That's not the book club, right? But
Right.
as the thing that we said though is that's not going to happen
Yeah,
automatically,
that's
right?
intentional, right.
Yeah,
It's
you
intentional.
have to have the conversation and start to plan and do those things
Right.
because can't read your mind, to understand what you're thinking. And again,
Mhm.
thinking is one thing, feeling, we try to stay on that side of the fence a lot um,
Mhm.
about feeling,
Right.
because what you're thinking is really you should try to express it in the terms of
Mhm.
either what you're feeling, how it makes you feel,
Right.
those types of things. That's really what's going to matter, and helping the other person understand where you're
Yeah.
coming from is expressing in the terms of feelings, right?
Mhm.
So as life goes on and you do start to change, as we all do, we have to be
Mhm.
open to share those different things.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep,
Yep, you're right. You're
that's
right
true.
about that, grown folks. Yep,
Yes,
mhm. Marriage is
grown
for grown
folks.
folks. I
Yeah,
think that, everything we talk about every time we have a video it's really about being intentional about whatever the subject is. You really have to think about what it is and make steps towards what you want, what's positive for you, or whatever you're trying to work out, whatever the situation is, it's really being intentional in it. And so growing and coming together in your relationship, if you really want that, it's going to take steps. It
Steps.
doesn't just happen. That's what we're
Yep.
talking about basically.
Yep. Yep. All relationships require work. And I think
Mhm.
that's another expectation that kind of ties back to what we said earlier about it's just going to happen naturally, right?
Yeah.
And it's work at the end of the day. And her comment, Trisha's comment there about it's for grown folks.
Yeah.
Basically, meaning you have to approach it maturely. You have to understand that you have a role in continuing to push it forward, and that role never stops. It's an
Mhm.
ongoing, living, breathing thing that you have to continue to. It's like a plant. You start watering the plant, what's going to happen to it? It's going to
Yeah,
die.
it's gonna
You know,
dry up and die like my
every so
grass.
often, every so often, you gotta change the soil, put it
Yeah.
in a bigger pot, right?
Mhm.
Those are all. So if there's that's a great way to compare what it takes to keep a relationship blossoming and growing and getting stronger.
Yep.
Uh, but the thing is, from an expectation standpoint, what is your mindset about putting in that work? Because if you approach it from like it's just gonna happen, and as long as I show up every day, it's kind of like going to work and clocking in and saying, "I'm just gonna sit here. I don't have to do anything. I'm here. I've done
Mhm.
my duty by just showing up." Right?
Yeah, I'm
It doesn't work.
everything. I'm the queen. Shoot, they got everything in me. I'm here. I just gotta be me, and they should be happy. What else I gotta do? I'm
Right.
here,
I'm
right?
here. Right?
You should be
No,
happy, right?
you you should be satisfied. You should be happy.
Right.
That's all it takes.
What else
No,
you expect? I'm here. Oh,
no,
you want me to cook a dinner?
doesn't.
I don't cook anymore. What?
What? Yeah. I want you to
You
take me to dinner, right?
what?
Is kind of what
No.
your mindset would be,
Yeah,
however.
exactly. Take me to dinner. What else? You want physical? Oh, okay. Is it your birthday?
It's your birthday. What? Only birthday sex? See, that's what I'm talking about.
Only
That's what's
birthdays and some holidays. I'm just playing.
I know. I know I know you are playing on the right side though, because that is what happens. That is exactly
Yeah,
what happens when we get into
yeah.
um
Like, people get in relationships and shut down in that area. Like, how do you started out, you were doing something at least once a week. How you get in a relationship and you just stop? Like, I'm done. Child, you're not getting none. No, what? You want what?
right,
No. No, I don't feel like I'm tired. I mean, we have work, we have kids, we have things that just keep us going that we're just so tired, but you still got to remember your partner. You can't just
you're
leave them hanging out there because if you leave
right,
them hanging out there, you don't do something, somebody else will come along and try to take care of them. It will
right.
happen.
Right,
So
and then
that's
you're
it.
pointing the finger the opposite direction at that point, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Not
um,
even thinking that you shut down and you're not
right.
even trying to keep it going. Okay, I'm off my soapbox.
No, you're 1,000% correct,
We didn't even plan
because
on talking about that.
no, it is part of expectation though,
Yeah,
because,
it is.
if you're sitting there and you're thinking that, you're not fulfilling your partner's needs like you used to. And again, as we said, things change, but still, there's to keep that relationship fresh so it doesn't get stale. You still need to have because the piece that obviously a good sex life brings in is that emotional bond, right?
Mm,
And if that starts to go south, that starts to bring about challenges in any relationship, right?
yeah.
Because you're not having that emotional connection anymore. You're
Mhm.
misaligned. So I think it's important that you realize, and then as you just said, and whether it's the man or the woman, if you're not giving them what they need emotionally, and somebody else starts to feed that emotion for them, then you got a problem, right? Now
Yeah.
you have a real problem.
Starts
So
for a woman, it starts off in the head.
always, always,
Mhm.
always, always,
Doesn't have to
uh,
be physical, but it can get there
it can get there,
if
right?
you're not feeding them.
Absolutely right. absolutely right. So it's important that you take that initiative, continue to water the plant, as I said earlier, so it can continue to grow. And every now and then, like you said, you got to change the soil and put it in a bigger pot. You know, whatever you got to do because it needs attention, right?
That's right.
Yeah, that's what you have to do. Now, another piece I want to bring into talking about expectations is disagreements, arguments, those
Mm,
kind of things, because some people take the position that if you are having arguments with someone that it's a bad relationship.
yeah.
And I don't think that that's necessarily true because disagreements are going to happen. You have
Mm,
two people who, especially if they're strong willed individuals who are trying to figure out a way to cohabitate, coexist, build a
right.
life together, you're not always going to see eye to eye. And that's going to be a natural part of it. And even going back to her comment about, basically marriage is for grown folks. Um,
That's right,
that's
Trish.
part of it, you know? Um, you have to look at that and say, we disagree. Now, here's a question that I want to throw on top of that. If we are in a situation where you feel strongly about X, and it could be the man or the woman, doesn't matter. Do you feel or do you have the expectation that whatever stance you've taken on whatever the subject is, that your significant other should have your back and take that same stance? Or do they have the
Ooh,
freedom to disagree with you?
just not in public.
Just not in public.
Yeah,
So clarify that. What do you mean?
they can disagree, just not in public.
So in public, they should always have your back and be on your
Yeah.
side,
Mhm.
or say
When we come
nothing,
home, we
or
could disagree.
do they have to say something, or can they just go,
No, just
I disagree, but so I'm just not
yeah.
gonna say anything, or do they need to say, yeah, baby, you're right, I got your back on
No,
that.
no, 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 no. Just don't say anything. Just don't say anything. Just hold it. You don't have to go against your beliefs and be all like, "Yeah, she's right. Yeah, yeah." No, just I'm a step out of this conversation. It isn't for me. And when you get home, baby, I don't agree with you on that. And you can go at it all day long at home and not
Right,
agree and come to
right,
agreement that you don't agree. But in public, mm-mm, don't. Mm-mm. We a team. We're together. We always
yeah,
together. We're always
right,
together. At home, we
yep,
disagree.
yep, yep,
Yes,
and Trish
yep,
agrees with
Trish.
you 100%,
Thank
so
you,
you gotta vote.
Trish.
You got 1 vote. I disagree with both of you, but that's a whole
Yeah,
nother story. No,
because you got that's you. You have to
I
do
know.
that. If you're
I have
not
to
doing
disagree,
that,
right?
you're not you.
No. Actually, I do agree. I agree
Oh, you
actually that in
do.
public, if it's your significant other, you are a team, you are a unit.
Yeah,
You should show a unified front
yeah,
in public. And if there is going to be a disagreement, take
yeah,
it behind closed doors,
yeah.
right? But how many times have you seen that happen in other relationships in
Yeah.
public where they get into those
I've
types of
seen that
things, right?
happen. I've seen that happen. A
Yeah,
man gotta be not always, but I'm thinking about a specific man, and he's
right,
putting his chest out, and he's got a and he disagreeing with her all out in front of everybody, and it's like you guys could have talked about that at home. You don't have to do that, and then
right.
bringing her along with him, like, oh, and she's embarrassed. No, I
Yeah,
even do that with my supervisor. Like, if he makes a stance about something, I'm not going to stand out there in public and just go straight against it. But if we're talking about something, we're having a discussion and we don't agree, but it's a discussion he wants us to go ahead and chime in and we're all having this what we believe, whatever, whatever, I do it. But if he's making a stance about something, he makes a stance. Make your stance. Okay. Later, behind closed doors, when it's just me and him having a meeting, I'll say, I'll tell him I'm not afraid of my supervisor. He's a good guy. And then
yeah.
I tell him, I think, and then he'll give me his point. Oh, okay. He's so wise. He's so, so
Right,
wise. But
right,
yeah, yeah, I love my
right.
supervisor. But yeah,
No,
relationship.
you're right.
Yeah.
But like you say, you see this happen all the time where in public
Mhm.
where they get into
Gotta
these
be wrong. Hmm.
tits with each other about tits and tats and tits and tats, this and tats, and they're going back and forth, and you're like, "Wait, you guys
Mm.
are supposed to be on the same side." Not that you don't have the
Yeah.
right to disagree because it's gonna happen, but not
Mhm.
in public. That's not where it should
No,
happen.
no, we're king and queen together.
There you go.
Mhm.
Unified nation at that
That's
point,
right.
right?
Mhm.
So
Especially with
another
the kids.
oh, that's another video. That's a whole whole 'nother video. We're not getting into
Yeah.
the unified front with the kids, but yeah, you're right about that.
Yes.
So then, another thing I want to bring on, I was talking to a good friend of mine last weekend. We were sitting, we were having a couple of beers and just catching up. We hadn't sat for a while. And one of the things he had brought up was he had been kind of going through some counseling because he was having some challenges with one of the relationships he was in. And the counselor basically said this to him, right? And the counselor said, "Listen, do you want to be right or do you want to be single?" And it's like, okay, well, I got it, right? Because that happens a lot. You know, we dig in, right?
Yeah.
And from an
Mhm.
expectation standpoint or whatever it is, and it's like, oh, I have to be right about this. But being always being right is
Yeah.
not right, if you know what I mean.
No.
It's
Yeah,
not the right
yeah,
thing to do,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And you
Smart
you you
counselor.
have to be willing to, and I know, Mina, you say it all the time. Pick your battles,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Some things aren't worth fighting over.
right.
Let them have
But
it.
but and then we talked about compromise once
Mhm,
before,
mhm.
and in one of our videos, might need to do a separate one just on compromise.
Right.
Because the thing we got into in that discussion was the ability or the willingness to truly compromise, meaning put it
Woo!
down and let it go, right?
Yeah, you gonna keep bringing it up, right?
Because you sit here right now and you say, "Okay, well, I don't need to be right on this one thing," and so you say, "I let it go." But
Yeah.
are you letting it go, or is it that 2 days later at dinner, you throw that jab punch about it, and then the 3 days after that, and just before you go to bed, you throw another jab punch about it, which means you really haven't let it go. You're
Yeah,
still hanging on to it, right?
yeah.
So that's the thing, as she's saying here, you're right, but gotta be grown about it. If you gotta let it go, right?
Guilty.
So that should be the expectation that you have, is to say, "All right, I don't need to be right always. This is a
Yeah.
battle that I can put down and let go." Right?
Or it could be something you gave in on and said, "I was gonna just we're just gonna compromise, Imma let this go," and you didn't really want to, but you did it, and you just weren't ready to let that go,
Yeah.
right? So it's gonna keep coming back because you
Okay.
weren't ready. You
Yeah.
couldn't.
Yeah.
You didn't have the ability to at that point.
Yep. I agree. I
Maybe it
agree.
cut really deep, whatever you were dealing with.
So I'm gonna flip this over to something that's gonna be a little bit funny for everybody out there as we go through it. We did an episode a couple of weeks back talking about flirting, and is
Oh,
flirting,
yeah.
using sexual innuendo, cheating in a relationship. So it's a very good video. So I want to kind of go back to that from an expectation standpoint. Okay. Obviously, you're in a relationship. You have this expectation that the other person is going to be loyal to you, which is a reasonable expectation. There's nothing unreasonable about that. So you're walking down the street, and it could be guy or girl, it doesn't matter. And this a very attractive guy or girl passes you, walk in the opposite direction. And your expectation is that your significant other didn't notice, right? That in your mind, that's what you're saying. However, you have to look at it from this standpoint. If you noticed, trust me, they noticed, right? Because you've already processed in your mind, "Oh, he better not turn his head and look." So that means you saw it already. So how is it that the expectation would be you would notice, and it's the person of the same sex, right? But they don't notice, right? Is that reasonable?
No? You
I know
thought I
you
was
I
gonna
know
say,
you
"Yeah."
struggle with I know you struggle with that one because it is that's a challenging one, right? But,
Yeah.
you know,
It's a
um,
good way to look at it, though.
it is.
Yeah.
It is, right? Because
Well,
it's
he
like,
bet not.
mean, So Trisha is not at all. All right.
We better
So
find a way not to flip his head around. Talk to me. Turn around, look at me, and say, "Honey, what did you do yesterday?" Something. You better find a way. Don't you. I'm walking next to you. Don't do it.
so I have and I've started to kind of observe or talk to different friends and different couples about certain things. So as a husband and wife that I know, and they've come up with a interesting way of dealing with that. So instead of ignoring it, they actually call it out, but to talk about it. So if there's a woman that's approaching and they're together,
Yeah.
and he will like turn to her, "Do you see the boobs on that woman?" Yeah, right.
Oh, no.
And then same thing, she's like, "Look at that good-looking guy over there. He's got great muscles." I mean, so because it's obvious that they see these people, right? Now, so I'm not saying it's
Ah,
right. I'm just saying that is how they've chosen
yeah.
to deal with the awkwardness of those situations. It's just actually call it out, right?
It works for them, right?
It works for them,
Okay,
right? I'm
good.
not saying it's right or wrong, but
No,
it
it works
works
for
for them,
them. It keeps them out of having any disagreement or heartburn about it. Great. That's
right?
wonderful for them.
Right.
But Imma tell you, he bet not.
Is that one? That's another one of your boundaries. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah. You can turn around and talk to me about my shoes, about the weather, about whatever. We can talk. Turn around and talk. Yep, yep,
Yeah.
yep. Yeah,
That's what she says, sort
yep,
of giving permission for
yep,
him to
yep,
look and mention it. I mean,
yep.
that is how they work their relationship,
And
and
it works for them.
and it works, and it's a two-way street
Yeah,
because
yeah,
she'll be like,
yeah.
"Oh, did you see that the arms on that guy? He must have been hitting the gym a lot," and so those are the comments she's making,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
those kind of
yeah,
things.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
uh, each relationship, like you said, but
You're
where does
right.
that come from? That goes all the way back to the beginning where we started this conversation, and that is communication.
Yeah,
You know, what what are those triggers within the relationship that may cause you problems? You
yeah.
identify those things, and then you figure out a way to get to a medium ground that satisfies both people. So
And that works for them. That's
that
great.
works that works for
Yeah,
them, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. And as she says, always prettier, thinner, brighter. That's the
Yeah.
grass is always
Uh-huh.
greener on the other side of the fence, right? Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
and, and then, I want to go back one more time to one
Okay.
of the videos that we did recently where
Mm,
basically we were talking about, I think, the whole flirting thing too. And it's like, hey, I'm not dead, right? I mean, if I see we're human beings, it's human nature. We see another attractive person, you know, not that we have to, break our necks and fall off the curb trying to look at the person, but we are going to notice that because that's human nature, right? Uh,
yeah,
Men are attracted to women, women are attracted to men, and if it's the other way around, where it's men to men or woman to woman,
yeah.
nothing wrong with that either. Whatever
Right.
your attraction is, if you
Yeah,
see someone that you go, "Wow, I that person looks really, really good," right?
yeah.
Human nature. Nothing we can do about that. But tying it back to expectation, I think the key is that it's hard for us to come into and open our minds to say, all right. I can't have the expectation that they're walking around with blinders on like
Oh,
this
yeah.
and going,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
that's an unrealistic expectation.
Yeah.
I think, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
But
mm.
they gonna do it.
But don't do it.
They gonna distract themselves somehow. Not with me walking next to them.
Don't do it. Mina Steel says don't do it. All right, fair enough.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. All right. That's kind of what I have on my list. Mina, what did you want? I know you said you had some things you wanted to get into later.
There were some things that, help with expectations. I had wrote them down,
Okay.
and, it's kind of from, well, not kinda, it is from a therapy point of view, but it's not really therapy. But this guy came up with this, Fritz Perls, and it's verbatim from Gestalt therapy, but it's good. The statements are simple. It's nothing nothing more involved. It's just really simple, so I really like it.
Okay.
There's one, 2, 3, 4 statements. One is, "I do my thing, you do your thing." It's not having that judgment of what they're doing, right? Okay,
Mhm.
but they better not look. Um,
We got that. Don't
you
look.
got
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
And the other one, number 2, "I am not in this world to live up to your expectations,
Oh,
and you are not in this world to live up to mine." And then the last
interesting.
one, yeah, the last one, "You are you, and I am I, and if you oh, and if by chance we find each other, it's beautiful. If not, it can't be helped."
Wow.
Yeah. So, and I got
So
this whole thing from psychology.com. It was in an article in psychology.com. But I thought they were interesting and they help you keep you in the frame of mind of, being easy on this.
hmm.
Mhm.
I'm with Trish on this. She's like,
Other,
hmm.
other
I mean, because it's good. I like
yeah,
the I am not here to live up to your
yeah,
expectations. You're not here to
right,
live up to mine.
right,
That's deep when you really start to dig
right.
into that a little bit, right?
Mhm.
Um, and if by chance we meet, awesome. If by chance we
Yeah,
don't, you know,
it
was it
is what
meant to
it
be,
is. Right.
right?
Mhm.
Wow, makes you think. It really makes you think.
Yeah.
So, for those of you out there who might watch this a little bit later on the recording when it plays back, please be sure to leave additional comments if you have any further thoughts or just any things you'd like to share or express talking about reasonable versus unreasonable expectations and how that can kind of in some cases maybe wreak havoc on your relationship, or if you have the right type of expectations and you're going about it the right way, can actually continue to grow and strengthen and build a relationship. So if you have some
Mhm.
things on that side of the fence, share those too. We definitely like to hear those comments.
Mhm. I think it all is down to compromise, like you said. You have your expectations, but are they gonna fit into it? Are they going to meet those? It's up to
Hmm.
them. They have a choice.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Well, yeah, she has a point.
well, yeah,
She has
it seems cold, but you have a choice on whether you, like I said, just said, on whether you want to live up to those expectations. So, I mean, have you ever met someone and you had this expectation of them and you wanted them to be your do or whatever, and they choose not to because
Mhm.
they have that right. So, you either deal with it or you end up moving on. So that's kind of what it is like. But if you're married, you're in a situation, you're going to be together, it's still kind of the same situation, but most people aren't going to divorce over an expectation, but it could be that serious of an expectation, and they're
It
like,
could be.
"I'm tired, I can't deal with this." She has this expectation or he has this expectation. Like, I could be married to someone and be saying, "Hey, you're not gonna turn around when I'm walking with you and when some pretty woman walks by," and they get tired of it and be like, "Oh, I can't deal with that. I got to go," you
Right.
know?
Right. Right.
So, it feeds into that, like, they have a right to be like, "I'm not living up to that expectation. Goodbye." Or,
Yeah.
"Okay, I can compromise on this and I can stay in it."
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
because psychology is all about emotion. I mean, it seems like it's about facts, but no, it's really it's about facts and emotion.
Facts and emotion. Yeah,
Mhm,
it
mhm.
absolutely is.
Living
It
in the
absolutely
real.
is. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I hope we get to know these things before marriage. People don't always. I hope they do.
Yeah.
Sometimes they get married and don't really know the person like they think they do.
Well, you would like she said there, you would really hope that they have
Yeah.
taken the time to well the other piece of it, last one I want to
Mhm.
go back to, and I kind of forgot that I wanted, but this is actually a good point for
Yeah.
it.
Yes, right.
We often make the mistake and I
Yeah.
say we on both sides of the fence, of
Mhm.
thinking we can change them,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah, so we'll go into it going, okay, well, they got this and they got that, and that's
Yeah,
okay, but this is kind of an issue for me. But you know what? Over time, I'm gonna fix that. I'm gonna change them, right?
yeah. Or even not even like it's not a conscious, "I'm gonna change them," but it's gonna change. It's not
Okay,
like, "I can
okay,
change
okay.
it," but
Yeah,
we're gonna work on it. It's
right,
gonna change, right? Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
everybody knows that you can't change somebody, right? Everybody knows that, but at the same time, they wanna change the situation, they wanna change what's going on. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right, right. No, I
Or someone could be hiding, not intentionally or intentionally, that part of them, and you don't know it's there. You don't get to see it. You don't have an idea that it's there, and you get to know them even better. And oh, lo and behold, this is not okay for me.
so let's talk about some old school relationship facts from the standpoint of, I mean, obviously we live in a different time today, and you go
Mhm.
back decades, and the standard was,
Yeah.
no sex before marriage. You definitely didn't live together before you got married. All those
I
kinds of
still did
things, right?
sex before marriage, though. But go ahead.
So and going this goes back to Trisha's point.
Yeah,
If you are still an old school believer in some of those things, there's a lot you might not know about a
right,
person
right.
when you quote unquote jump the broom, as we
Yeah,
say.
yeah.
If you haven't really spent that much
Mhm.
time
You're
in
right.
that way with the person, right? Now,
Mhm.
today things have changed, and we're much
Mhm.
more fluid and open with
Right.
relationships. The stigma of sex before marriage and all these different kinds of things are not like it used to be. But
Mhm.
still, those things can play into it. And then going back to what you just said, Mina,
Mhm.
is there some covert stuff that's happening from
Oh,
one side of the
yeah.
fence to the other? The person's withholding,
Oh,
uh,
yeah.
and then that brings the next question up: what is the intent behind that? Trish says you've got to have sex
You're right.
before marriage. That's the comment that's on here right now.
You are so right.
So the test drive is what I'm going to call that.
We are not cars.
Sure we are. Kick the tires, slam the door,
Oh, my
look
lord.
un look under the hood, yeah.
You look under the hood.
Anyway,
But you still might not even after you do all that, you might not catch everything, you know? There might be some other things you don't see, don't know, you don't find out till way later.
so the complete freak comes out later. That's what you're saying?
It ain't even I'm not even talking about sex. There's other stuff. I mean, there's sex, and then there's other stuff, that you don't know till later, like things
Okay.
that they don't may not even know about themselves.
It is gonna be a learning because
Mhm,
I guess that's the point that it's good you said that because
mhm.
the 2 of you are joining into a union that's never been together before. So whatever your
Right.
personality traits, whatever your characteristics are, you're gonna bring some things out in them they didn't know that they had. They're gonna bring some things out in you didn't know you had because now
Yeah.
there's this new union of attitudes and morals and values and personality traits
Mhm.
and characteristics, and each one is a one-off, right? That one
Right.
relationship is a unique relationship. So you're right. Yeah, you're right. There's gonna
Mm,
be some growth dynamics and some change that's gonna happen just because the two people are now together every
mm.
day, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's like when you get off work, where are you going? Home. Who's at home? Your significant other, right? It's not like you can go back to your old apartment and hide out and
Smoke and mirrors. Mhm.
yeah, yep.
Yes. Yep. Mhm. She's right. Trish is right. And you know what, Trish? Oh, we gotta say that because we have the podcast. Yes, I bear witness to smoke and mirrors. Lots of con artists out there. Not everyone in it is in it for the right reasons, but as a means to an end. You're right.
You're right.
Mhm. They might be
You're right.
trying to get a green card. They might be trying to get your money. They might be, they might wanna just enhance the money that they have,
Yeah.
by getting you, there's
Yeah.
maybe they just wanna have a regular physical thing and don't mind getting married about it because they're just gonna hang out,
Yeah.
You don't know what
Yeah.
that's about.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that whole watch this hand so you don't know what's happening over here on this hand, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
smoke and
keep you
mirrors.
confused, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
mhm. She's
yeah,
right.
very important that you consider all those things
Mhm.
in getting into a relationship and then balancing what your expectations are going
Yeah,
into the relationship.
right.
Uh,
Watch
but
out
the
for
key,
theirs.
watch out and ask the questions. And it's a two-way street. You have to be open and honest. You want people to be open and honest with you. You have to be open and honest with them as well, right? Because
Yep.
that feeds in both directions.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Trisha's right. She's on another one. You can be a come up for them. That's for sure.
that's
They
for
might be
sure.
struggling and add you to it.
Yeah,
They'll do a lot better financially. Could be
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that could
yeah.
be it. Yeah. I was talking
Yeah,
to a friend about a situation where oh, I won't talk about this because no, never mind.
never mind. Okay.
Never mind, no, because it might somebody might hear it and know who it is, so I'm not going to.
All right.
Never mind.
Fair enough. You should keep that one to
Keep it to
yourself.
myself.
Keep it to yourself.
Not calling
So we're
anyone.
gonna get ready to transition into the closeout for this today.
Mhm.
And what I want to do is share a list, and this is a list of
Oh,
things that
yeah, you do have it.
take it with a grain of salt per se, but understand that these are some of the things that you can do to try to approach a relationship from a healthy expectation standpoint. And I actually got this from, of all people, Tony Robbins, and off the Tony Robbins website. So I'm gonna bring that in, and we'll share that really quick for everybody to take a look at. But just kind of some general rules and guidelines, and it's just some bullet
I don't
points.
see
And
it.
I haven't pulled it up yet.
Oh.
Slow,
I thought it was supposed to be there. Sorry,
Jesus!
sorry, sorry, sorry.
Don't make me go back. No, you said I promise I wasn't gonna go there, so I'm gonna leave that alone.
Please don't.
All right.
Patricia, get him.
So here we go. So healthy relationship expectations, and this was again I got from TonyRobbins.com. So the number one I think is very important, and it's basically prioritize appreciation. Sorry, over expectation. Basically meaning show that you appreciate the person, what the person does, appreciate the relationship, appreciate all the things that are going on, because that's going to bear more fruit than trying to hold them to a certain level of unreasonable expectation. Right. So show the appreciation. That's very important.
And we talked
Uh,
about the good feeling with that being on both sides.
correct.
If you're not doing it, start doing it and see how it makes you feel.
That's right. That's right. And then number two, which was on my list because we recently did a episode about what are your relationship deal makers and deal breakers,
Mhm,
and compassion was one of the top ones in my list of deal makers from a relationship standpoint. So
mhm,
express your compassion, and that's in not just between the individuals in the relationship, but your compassions in life in general, right?
mhm.
Um, Whatever it is that you have and um, that you're compassionate about, be engaged, be forthright and upfront about those things because that's going to matter. So express what you're compassionate about.
Right, and sometimes people don't talk about those things even though they have it. They
They
have
do.
things that they're compassionate about. They think it's silly or
Right.
don't think anyone wants to hear it, but
Here,
you
they
gotta
might
talk
be
about those
judged
things.
by it. Yeah, those kind of things.
Right,
But in
right.
a relationship, like I said, that's the person in a relationship that you're in. That's your ace.
Yeah,
That's
that's your
who's in your corner.
cheerleader.
Right.
Yeah, mhm,
So you need to be able to express and share those things and the feeling and why you feel that way about those things and all that openly and honestly, because that's going to get you a long way in building a stronger foundation. And remember, we were talking earlier about the emotional connection in a
mm,
relationship and why that's important. And the compassion will certainly help also build that bridge and keep it very solid as well.
mhm.
Number three, show respect. And that's as simple as Mina said, walking down the street, and she's like, "You better not look," because we've
I
talked
forgot to
about
tell
that
you.
before, right? Well, we've talked about that before. That's disrespectful, right? Uh,
Yeah.
Again, not that.
Unless I'm sorry for cutting you off,
Yeah,
but unless, like Trish was saying, unless it's one of those situations,
yeah,
where you've already talked out, you already planned this, and you're going to talk about it. So that's
yep,
not disrespectful.
yep. I agree. And she has a good comment here too. I'm going to drop that in so we can all see it. Uh, she says, "I think that's why I'm still single because we attract who we are, and as a healthy woman, I don't attract unhealthiness." Very, very true. Very well
Okay,
said.
I'm gonna take that too.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take that.
So
Can I take that, Trish?
y- you feel free to use it. It's not public domain. It's out in the world. So yes. So number four on the list, demonstrate consideration. And another good word to substitute is compromise, because consideration and compromise could kind of interchangeable, I think, in that scenario.
Yeah,
So very important that you demonstrate that you are willing to be considerate, that you're willing to compromise, and truly, I'm gonna always come back to that because people are so guilty of saying they let it go, but really not. They're still holding on to it and showing in different ways, and that plays into the relationship and some negative behaviors. So if you're going to compromise, truly be able to truly compromise, put it down, let it go, move on.
right. Can I say something about the consideration?
Sure.
Another thing about consideration is just little things like, you can't show up for something you say you're going to show up to, or, consideration, let the person know, just little things. Don't be so selfish that you can't do that. You
Hmm.
grown, yeah, but let people know, right?
Right.
That's
Right.
grown folks, like Trish said, grown folks. Grown.
Grown. Act like it.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
would be
yeah,
nice. Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Five, and we talked about this earlier. Devote
Mhm.
time to your partner. So whatever that means to you and your specific relationship, we all have busy lives and
Right,
family and kids and work and all that kind of
right.
stuff. But you have to make it a priority for the relationship and the person that you're in a relationship with to have some dedicated, devoted time to them. Remember, because I shared it in one of the episodes not too long ago when I was talking about the phones, and you brought it up. Put the damn phone down, right? And now don't let it be a distraction when you're sitting and having a conversation or maybe a casual dinner with your significant other. Be in the moment is kind of
Mhm.
how we describe that. And I think I was sharing that one of the habits I have been trying to do when I can is if I'm meeting someone out, I try to leave the phone even in the car. I don't even take it into the restaurant with me so that even when they get up and go to the restroom or something like that, I don't pick up the phone and look at it and, because as I said then, even though
Distracted.
they are away from the table, when they come back, my mindset's now changed because
Right,
now I'm thinking about whatever it was that I saw in the phone versus
right,
being in the moment with that person.
right.
So when you do devote that time, devote the time, meaning
Mm,
get rid of all the other distractions as best you can and
right.
be there in the moment for the person that you're in a relationship with. I think that's important. Uh, Number six, never question the nature of the relationship. And Mina and I, we had a little bit of a challenge on this one to begin with, right? Because we're like, well, I don't know about that because there's some intent. And it goes back to what we were just sharing a moment ago about, some people just to come up or this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah,
Um, but how this really breaks out is this: it's not saying that you're not questioning um, issues within the relationship. It is saying don't think that the relationship itself is what the problem is. You want to figure out if you're having issues within the relationship, deal with the issue. Don't think that the relationship is the issue. Don't make that your immediate point that you jump to. This relationship's not working. Well, whoa, wait, why? What are the challenges that we're having within the relationship, and then address those things individually, one to one, before just saying it's the relationship as a whole that's broken or that's not
Mhm.
working. So that's what they're talking
Right.
about. I like number 7, avoid repetition, um, because that's another challenge that comes into, is I think we get into that thing of wash, rinse, repeat. You know, go to the same restaurant all the time, eat the same meal all the time, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That can be a problem. And I see Trish had another comment. You want to read that off, everybody?
Yeah. I thought you can't put it in, it's too big, huh?
It might, yeah, it might not fit.
I
We'll try
met
it.
a I met a man recently who I went out with a few times for dinner. At our last dinner, who felt free enough to say to me that I'm too conservative and I needed to lower my
Lower my
standards.
standards. Whoa.
I was totally offended and never answered his call again. The nerve. I'm not desperate. I know my worth, and I'll just wait until I meet with the one who will connect with me where I where I am and grow from there. That's a good way to think about it. But sometimes they get these crazy ideas in their head and will tell you anything.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, 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 absolutely. And I mean, I wanted, because I know the one key word she using is about know your worth, and I know
Yeah,
that's
know your
a
worth.
big thing for you, right?
Yeah,
When you talk about relationships,
know
and
your worth.
know your worth, and stand on that, right? Because
Yeah.
that's an important factor.
Mhm. Someone told me once I needed a leader. I was like, and it was
Neither
a few years ago. And I've been here all these years on this earth taking care of myself. I need a leader? I mean, again, I don't have a boss.
a leader, as in like you're supposed to say, "Sir, yes, sir," to everything kind of
Well,
leader, or
he was a retired military person who was a leader. And he told me I needed a leader. So what I did was he was helping me put a table together in my house. He
Hmm.
gave me this really nice table, and he was trying to get rid of it, but it was pretty new. And I took it. Yeah, oh, thank you. And he was putting it together with a screwdriver, but I had a drill, and I was like, you know what? I got a drill. Let's see if you do that side with the screwdriver. I'll do this side with the drill. Let's see who
Real,
gets done first.
right?
That man didn't want to talk to me no more after he left. But
You
I
weren't
mean,
doing a very good job of following the leader.
I
That is the
wasn't.
thing.
I wasn't, but I don't mind following, but it's just like, don't tell me I need a leader. I don't need
Stupid
a
is as
leader.
stupid does, man. Yeah, that didn't make any sense.
It did.
All right, so let's
Anyway.
jump on here to number 8. Never threaten your relationship. So I thought that was an interesting one. So basically, what they were saying is, if there's something in the relationship that's not working, and you're not feeling satisfied, y- use the threat of walking away from it as a way to get action out of whatever's going on. You know,
Like the
so
ultimatum.
yeah, it's like either you fix this or I'm leaving,
I'm
right? Kind of
leaving.
thing, right? I ain't never coming home. Um, because that in itself, I think, in some ways, is disrespectful. Now, obviously, if you have communicated and communicated and communicated and communicated, and
This is
now
it.
nothing's changed, now you're at a whole different level. Yes, because that's when you can go, all right, hey, listen, we've talked about this, I don't know, 2 dozen times now, and zero has changed. So obviously it's not important to you, then so I need to make a decision for me. Right.
Mhm.
That's a different scenario. But just out of the gate, when there's a issue or a challenge, and as we said, within relationships, disagreements and arguments and different things are going to naturally happen. When those things happen, don't just immediately jump there to stand your ground and say,
Right.
either you agree with me or this relationship's over. It's like, whoa, whoa, yeah, that's a bit much, right?
I would say be ready if you do that. You better be, if you tell somebody that, you better be at the point where you are really ready to walk away from that, because people don't react well to being
Threats.
threatened, and you give them that ultimatum, chances are they're gonna say, "Well, go ahead,"
Go ahead, right? And
and
then
you're
right,
gonna be without, so you better be
yeah,
at that point where you're ready to walk away, because
yeah,
it probably will happen.
yeah. It's the whole thing when we're a teenager, right? We threaten our parents, "I'm gonna run away from home," and then mom is
Gone?
like, "Shoot, let me open the door for you."
No.
And then
Did
you're
you
like,
say SHIT?
"I did not."
Oh, okay.
Uh, and you standing there like, "Wait, that's not the reaction she's supposed to have," because
Uh-uh,
yeah.
uh-uh.
And now she's like, "Yeah, you wanna run? I'll open the door for you. Want me to help you pack some stuff? Hit the road,"
Yeah.
right? So, yeah, be careful what you wish for when you start threatening.
Yeah, yeah.
Number 9, don't stagnate. So, and again, I'm just gonna quickly go back to my
Yeah,
whole plant analogy, right? The
yeah.
plant is it's gotta continue to grow. You've gotta continue to feed it, nurture it, water it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the
Yeah.
relationship is no different because if you don't do those things, it will stagnate. And
Mhm.
as you said earlier, once that emotional bond starts to break
Yeah.
down, if someone else starts to feed that individual's emotional
Mhm.
need, then you got problems, right?
Watch out.
So watch out. Right? Number 10. We talked about this before in 2 or 3 of our previous episodes, and that's about looking outside, right? Don't
Mhm.
compare your relationships to others' relationships, right? Looking over the fence, going, "Ooh, what do they have? What are they doing? What's going on over there?" And trying to compare because you have no idea what their relationship's really all about. Because you're on the outside looking in, as it is, so you don't know the internal dynamics. Uh, but that whole keeping up with the Joneses, so you think, um, all of that and trying to compare your relationship to other people's relationships is a really, 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 really bad place to get to from an expectation standpoint, right? S- Get to that place where you can truly understand and love and appreciate what it is that the two of you have versus trying to say, okay, we only have this, but some friends over here have this, and some friends over here have this. Why can't we have that? What's wrong with you? And what's wrong with us? And
Right,
because
right.
you're looking on the outside for validation, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Or you
I
see your
think,
friend getting flowers and candy every week. Now you
yeah,
mad. You come home mad. I don't get anything. Comparing.
comparing,
Yeah.
comparing, right? So,
Mhm.
and if you do feel that way, who should you be talking to about that? You should be talking to your
I
significant
don't
other,
know.
right?
Maybe you don't need the flowers. Maybe that man. Maybe those are I'm sorry flowers and candy. Maybe you don't need the flowers
You
and
don't
candy every week.
yeah, like I said, you don't know what the dynamics are in their relationship,
Uh,
right? Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, you might be completely wrong. You might be thinking it's from her husband or significant other. It might be from her side man.
yeah.
Hey,
It
we
might
don't know,
be.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Or he's
So
giving them to her because he got a side woman. Who
trying to,
knows?
who
But I like
knows?
what Trish had to say. We're always talking about the grass is greener on the other side. Heck, your grass would be green too, if you were watering
Water
it.
is
I talked about that earlier. Stop not watering the grass.
right.
Shoot, you used to water it once a week. Go back to watering it once a week.
I
You
think
know what I'm
one of
talking
the
about.
that you do. Well, I think one of the best ones I remember you bringing up before was talking about how a woman goes to bed. Remember you
Yeah,
said you used to wear the earlier in the relationship. You have on the sexy nightgown and
yeah.
negligee.
They were
You get
uncomfortable.
few years in, you got on the long wool pants and the do rag and
Or short to the t-shirt.
shorts and a t-shirt, right? Yeah. So every now and then, yeah, you have to water the grass, as Trish said, 100%,
Yeah,
and
take your bonnet off.
keep the home fires burning. Is a very old saying. So that brings us to the end of the list today.
Yep,
Healthy relationship expectations and ways to go about continuing to keep the relationship from stagnating, keep it growing. As we said, water it so it continues to grow and nurture it as you move forward. Mina, what are your final thoughts before we wrap up and get out of here today?
Well, I would say have expectations, but communicate about them with your partner.
Mhm,
That magical thinking, it doesn't help. So communicate about whatever's going on and see if you can get them met. But give them that space to either agree or disagree. Don't expect them to just always come to your side.
mhm, mhm.
Except when you're walking down the street and there's a woman walking by, pretty woman walking by. Don't look.
Sorry. We obviously know that for Mina, that's a sore spot. So don't do that. She might push you out in front of a moving car. All right.
Thank you, Trish. Thank you, Patricia. Those were the only names I saw.
Yeah. So one of the last things that I want to say as we wrap up is, and it's just a summary of it takes work. It's work. It's a work in progress, and I think that's where people get lost in a lot of their relationship connections over time. Uh, is they get into a comfort zone, they settle into this space and place of, all right, well, wash, rinse, repeat, same thing day in, day out, right? Not thinking that, the best thing to do is to try to liven it up here or there, do something fresh, do
Mm,
something different, find some new common interests, those kinds of things,
yeah,
because that's going to continue to keep the relationship healthy. Um, so you can keep moving forward, keep growing as a couple, and all of that. So that's the last thing I just wanted to share is don't stop working. Just keep
yes.
keep working, keep working. That
Intentional. Be intentional.
be intentional and be in the moment too,
Mm,
as we talked about. Stay engaged, be in the moment, because that emotional bridge of all of the things, the mental, the physical, the emotional, that emotional bridge is actually the most important one. And that's the one you need to stand up the most because that's the one over time that's going to keep you guys in sync and together. So focus on keeping that emotional bridge strong.
right.
That's all I got. I'm gonna shut up because I've been
Me
talking for
too.
a long time today. What? You're done? That's it? Nothing else?
Uh-huh.
All right.
Hey,
Fair enough.
Tony. Thanks for watching.
Yep.
And thank you, Melinda. I also saw Melinda. Thank you. Thank you, guys. We love you. We appreciate you for supporting us.
Yes.
Please like, click, subscribe, comment. Please subscribe on YouTube. We're
Yep.
trying to grow there.
Yep. Definitely subscribe on our YouTube channel. As she said, if you found value in this, please like it. Absolutely share if you know other people, friends, family, etc., who would benefit from taking a listen to this. Please do that, and then subscribe. As she said, get over to
Yeah.
YouTube and subscribe. And we will be dropping this off on a podcast. So if you don't have a chance to watch the whole video, but you can catch a podcast on the run, you can definitely download that on all of the regular podcast outlets such as Apple Music, Amazon, Google Podcasts, and also Spotify. So you can
Yes,
find it
Spotify.
there as well. Until Tuesday, we have a new
Okay.
unscripted coming up. So we'll be looking forward
We're-
to that. And that'll be coming out Tuesday morning for everybody. Until then, have a great weekend. Much aloha to
And
everybody.
we
And
are VoV Network on all those places.
that's correct. VOV Network. Take care, Mina. To everybody, bye.
Aloha.
Take care. We'll talk to everyone soon.